Hi everyone, and thank you for checking out my channel. This is Yasina. I'm just doing kind of a quick get to know me part 2. I'm going to kind of try to finish off where I started, where I talked about my addiction to painkillers. I became addicted to painkillers literally. It did what it said, what it's called, kills the pain. And at first I thought I had control of it. I thought I had control of it, and I thought I would just take one at a time. Like, I told myself that I was only going to take one, I was only going to take a certain type, I wasn't going to take more than I was supposed to, and I thought that if I just stayed that way that I wouldn't fall into any trouble, but I was really wrong. I became really addicted really fast. My tolerance built up really, really fast. I was, instead of taking one a day or two a day I was taking up to 5, 10 a day. And then I also started mixing my medications. I found out if you mixed your anti-anxiety meds with your painkillers that it make the high last longer and more intense. So that's what I started doing, as I was mixing my anti-anxiety medications along with my painkillers that I was prescribed. It got worse when my dad broke his back and his leg and his foot in multiple places. He was prescribed oxycodone, which was one of my ultimate favorites of pain meds that I took. And he was prescribed that, and my addiction kind of just went overboard. I was taking up to 20 a day, and just thought that I had everything under control yet, especially since I was getting the prescription from my dad. I didn't really think that it was that bad. Like, I wasn't buying it, I wasn't, selling things to get it. It was just, I was getting it monthly from my dad. So I thought that, because of that, that it made everything okay. We ended up moving down to Mexico because my husband was deported, and we ended up living down there for about a year, and I got clean, and I went through the most horrific withdrawals ever when I was down there for the first 6 months or so. I was down there. I went through severe withdrawals from everything, and I stayed clean for quite a long time. There was lots of opportunities for me to not be clean because there's just pharmacies everywhere that you can just go in and purchase them, and without being questioned or without prescription or anything like that. And so I ended up getting clean, and it wasn't until my mom came down to visit and me and Gerardo were arguing and fighting, and she was just like, here, take this, it'll help you feel better. And I ended up taking it, and it just kind of started my addiction all over again, because then it was like, oh yeah, why did I ever stop? This, helps me feel really good, helps me, not, you know, get mad, helps me not overreact, helps me just stay calm. And we lived down there for a year, and when it came time to have my son go to school, it was like pretty much impossible because it was so expensive for him to go to school, including the uniform and the books and all that stuff. Even with my dad's income and my stepdad's income and my income put together, it still wasn't enough to get him into school. And so now I see why there's a lot of people who aren't in education in the, like, down in Mexico and places like that, because it's just like, it's so hard to get education. And so we came back to the States, and I moved in with my mom and her husband in Madras, Oregon, and I thought maybe I would get clean there. That was my intention, but I never did. I never did get clean there. It just got worse. I ended up meeting people that, had prescriptions of their own, and it just got to where I was buying more than than my dad was being prescribed. And I ended up being introduced to meth about a month before my dad passed away. And after my dad passed away, and we had found him, and he had been deceased for about 3 days, and the temperature was like 100 and something degrees. It was really hot, and so when we found his body, it wasn't the prettiest, and I kind of used meth as a way to numb the pain of finding my father, and I went through a lot of things back at home, or back here in Alaska, with my whole dad's, like, my dad's paternity, and whether he was my dad, and all the stuff that that people were saying after he passed away, that I wasn't his daughter, and all these hurtful things. And it turned out where I was his daughter, and everything, but it was just a really hard time, feeling like everybody was against me and that nobody wanted to think that I was his daughter. And that was a really hard time for me. And I used meth as a coping mechanism for me to deal with my father's death, and to black out the parts where I told him that I hated him, and that was the last words I ever said to him. That was really hard for me to come to terms with. And it's been about 8 years, and it still feels like it was yesterday that he passed away, and it just is really hard. And right now, dealing with all this stuff with OCS and everything, it makes me miss my dad even that much more, because I wish he was here to help me through all of this. I know that, he would be so heartbroken, that I'm in this situation again, but I know that he would be there for me no matter what, and I really miss him. I got introduced to meth, and my addiction to meth kind of started there, and like I said, especially after I found my dad, that's when it really spiraled out of control, and it literally took me 4 months to lose everything. It was December 17th, 2012, and we had just gotten back from Walmart, and I was high, but I wasn't trying to start trouble with anybody. But I didn't know at the time my stepdad and my mom had a plan to try to set me up to get into trouble, so that way they thought that it would scare me into being sober. But it didn't really work. It kind of did the opposite, where I felt resentful, and I felt angry about them setting me up and putting me in jail before Christmas. I got out on Christmas Eve, and it was Christmas Eve that I lost my kids to DHS down in Oregon. I remember signing the papers saying that I surrendered my rights over to them and everything on Christmas Eve, the day I got out of jail, and it was just really hard, and I didn't know what I was going to do, or how I just didn't know. I never dealt with DHS before in my life, and it was just a really scary time. And that's where my journey started with recovering from meth, was when I lost my kids in December 2012. And it was a really hard journey. I never thought I was going to get off of it. I really thought that I was going to be stuck on meth forever, because it was such an evil, hard drug to come off of. And I finally got my kids back in 2013, 2014. And I fell pregnant with my son Jace, that within a month of getting my kids back. And he was born December 31st, 2015. And we ended up moving up here to Alaska January 16th, 2017. And my alcohol addiction started when I moved up here. I didn't really think it was going to get that bad, but it did. And I ended up losing my kids again September 23rd. But anyways, thank you for checking out my channel, and I will do another update here soon. Thanks.